Hello there, this is CDL Steve. Greetings and welcome back to the OTR Academy podcast, sharing the finer aspects of the OTR experience.
This episode is brought to you by Spy Games, inside the murky world of corporate espionage. Spy Games is an autobiographical novel written by Steve Fowler, revealing the fascinating life of Kola the spy. Spy Games is available on Amazon.com in paperback for your Kindle and as a 15-hour Audible audiobook. Listening to Spy Games during a long trip down the interstate is a great way to pass the time. A link to Amazon's Spy Games order page is included in today's show notes. Spy Games, inside the murky world of corporate espionage.
Rest areas are a must for most OTR drivers. They are important for quick restroom breaks, safety checks, stopping for phone calls, 30-minute and 10-hour breaks, trip planning, etc. However, there are downsides associated with many rest areas you'll encounter across the United States. In this episode, we'll discuss some important rest area design issues you should be aware of for effective trip planning and safety. And, as you'll quickly learn, CDL Steve has a love-hate relationship with rest areas. Rest area designs are varied, and it's clear designers fail to consider, understand, or communicate with truck driving professionals when designing rest areas. It's clear many designers don't take into consideration that people pulling into rest areas are often fatigued and need rest. Many designers don't seem to understand the need for proper signage and good sight lines from truck mirrors when pulling out of the parking lot. They fail to understand turning radius issues involving combination vehicles. Sometimes I think they don't know the length and width of these trucks. When I say I have a love-hate relationship with rest areas, that extends to rest area designers as well. Some rest area designers are clearly interested in the practical, making rest areas work for motorists and making them efficient, safe, and easy. Then there are those architects that design rest areas in such a manner it appears their only goal is to win some kind of aesthetic award, perhaps for the most creative design. Although they might look good in a satellite or drone photo, they are often just a nuisance for OTR drivers. As an OTR driver, you will learn very quickly that rest area design plays a big role in your travels. Design is important because your on-duty and off-duty times are subject to time constraints dictated by the DOT and reflected in your electronic logs. Intentionally bumpy roadways and tight, poorly angled parking spaces eat away at your clock and patience. Most OTR drivers want to be able to exit the freeway quickly, slide into well-spaced parking lanes, have restroom and trash receptacle availability, good lighting, and the ability to return to the freeway quickly. Many rest areas do just that. Many others force drivers to follow curvy roads that go on forever before you can get into and out of the parking area. Listeners who aren't drivers of big rigs may not understand the issue. Here's a real-life example to help explain. On Interstate 40 in New Mexico, you will find the Aucomita rest area. This is what I refer to as an exit-based rest area. An exit-based rest area is a rest area situated off a normal freeway exit. That type of exit permits motorists to travel to other places other than the rest area. That is markedly different than a dedicated exit design, specifically intended for passage into a rest area, then allowing a return directly to the freeway. Again, those are dedicated rest area exits, dedicated to traffic in and out of rest areas, and for no other purpose or destination. Exit-based rest areas create longer ingress and egress times, often involving more turns and stops in the process, all of which create difficulties and loss of time for commercial drivers. The Aucomita rest area's exit from Interstate 80 is complicated by two different roundabouts and two 90-degree turns that motorists must traverse before they even arrive at the rest area. Once in that rest area, the road is curvy and has few parking spaces. If an OTR driver goes through the trouble to try and use that rest area, it creates a lot of wasted time for the driver if the rest area is full. You cannot see from the interstate before you exit just how full that rest area might be. If it's full, you'll really waste a lot of valuable time with no opportunity to stop. Another rest area design issue is when the designer creates a safety problem for truck drivers exiting the rest area. Most rest areas require exiting traffic to merge into a single lane on-ramp for the freeway. Unfortunately, there are many rest areas of that design where the truck driver is required to yield to traffic from the right, from the blind side of the truck, the passenger side. The angles are often such that a truck driver has difficulty spotting merging traffic in the mirror. That's a very unsafe design. Moreover, it could be easily corrected by just moving the yield sign from the truck lane to the passenger car lane, requiring passenger vehicles to yield to the trucks on their left. My personal belief is that traffic should always yield to the larger truck. A truck driver not seeing the smaller automobile in the blind spot might easily impact a vehicle that is speeding by on the right side of the combination vehicle. Parallel parking. Most people understand that needing to parallel park after a long drive might be more challenging than doing it earlier in the day. Most people would also understand that parallel parking in the daytime, with excellent lighting, is much easier than at night, with little to no lighting, regardless of the kind of vehicle you are driving. To be clear, with practice and experience, parallel parking a big rig is a little easier than it was a little earlier in a driver's career. However, after 8 hours continuously driving, then pulling into a tight rest area that only offers parallel parking for 3, 4, 5, or 6 spaces, with poor lighting, can be a real nightmare. Not enough rest areas. Interstate 80 begins in the San Francisco Bay Area and ends nearly 3,000 miles later in New Jersey, just a few blocks from the Hudson River and before the George Washington Bridge leading to the Bronx in New York. According to federal highway reports, I-80 is notable for having the highest volume of tractor-trailers on U.S. highways. Yet there are long stretches across many states with few rest areas, and those that are there will often be insufficient for the traffic volume along that roadway. For example, in Nebraska, there are quite a few rest areas that have fewer spaces than I have fingers, and those rest areas tend to be parallel parking only. I would sure like to have some of those rest area designers on the truck with me so they can see the nightmares they create. Beyond working with poor rest area designers, states do a disservice to OTR drivers who fill their state coffers with money each time we stop for fuel. We usually spend between $500 and $1,000 in diesel when filling our trucks. Included in fuel costs are many dollars in taxes that go to the 11 states along the I-80 corridor. Yet few expansions and improvements to rest areas ever occur. I don't know what they do with their money, but the trucks that cross those states pour untold numbers of dollars into state treasuries, and the return we receive is spending priceless minutes and hours seeking a place to park so we can enjoy some much-needed rest and be safer drivers for it. In coming episodes, we'll address additional issues associated with rest areas. Rest areas are needed badly by OTR drivers, and it's important for good trip planning to know what's ahead along your route. Our next rest area episode will likely include resource material to help you plan where you might stop during your travels. We will give you sufficient information to help you decide whether it makes sense to skip those 2 small parallel parking-only rest areas and push further down the highway for the larger rest area with more spaces and decent ingress and egress. You will also need to know about rest area hours, because some of them don't allow you to stay long enough for an 8 or 10-hour break. Some might be 30 minutes only, while others are limited to 6 hours. Again, all of that goes into your need for good trip planning until you become very familiar with that particular roadway and the options available to you. I love rest areas more than I hate them. That love is based on need. As an OTR driver, I need rest areas to be there. I just wish they would better accommodate our needs. Check out our YouTube channel at OTR Academy. Please subscribe to this podcast and also consider supporting our sponsors who make this OTR Academy podcast possible. The sponsor of this episode is the publisher for spy games, Inside the Murky World of Corporate Espionage. A link to the purchase of that fascinating autobiographical novel is included in the episode notes. Thank you. Let us know how you're doing. Our message number is 520-800-3773. Our email address is otracademy@gmail.com. Until next time, this is CDL Steve. Enjoy the adventure, drive safe, Godspeed.